6 p.m. in the Dan division of the southwest region of Cameroon, same time in Bamenda, chief town of the northwest region. Good evening, dear viewers of Equinoxe television. Thank you so much for joining me in this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. Several passengers flying the Douala Yaoundé, Bamenda Douala, Yaoundé Bamenda and Kumba Bamenda stretch of road have described the recent increase in fare by transport agencies as outrageous. According to them, the increase is way above the common man can afford. We visited some travel agencies in Bonaberi Douala, and you'll be getting the reactions of some of these passengers in the course of this newscast. Meantime, Cameroon gets suspended twice within the space of 3 years by the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative 18. In the document, ET points out lack of accountability and weaknesses in civil society engagement, while citing Cameroon's inability to use the process in influencing public decision-making. The Glenco Affair was equally raised as one of the major reasons for the suspension. Greater details still in this edition of the news. And also in this edition of the news, we'll also tell you about the effect of naira devaluation on businesses right here in Cameroon. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin right here in the city of Douala, where passengers flying the Douala-Bamenda road are expressing frustration for the recent increase in transportation fare that is from 5,000 to 6,500 francs for classic buses. Drivers attribute the increase on the rise in fuel prices and rising insecurity along the stretch. Smagic and Gabriel visited some agencies in Bonaberi Douala and compiled the following report for the 6 p.m. news.
Some of the travel agencies that moved to Bamenda from Douala, it was rather a timid atmosphere that we met as passengers decried the increase in transportation fare. It's very complicated because there have been an additional amount on the normal price we used to pay. In the past, we used to pay, particularly those of us who travel regularly, but it's really tough now. Leaving Douala to Bamenda was 5,000 francs CFA until the new tariff of 6,500 francs CFA that was made official on March 4th, 2024. The drivers who ply the road say the suffering is enormous.
The problem is that we are suffering in northwest and southwest because the government had the tax that we should pay for. The fuel is very high. Even the transportation, we are doing the transportation, we are not feeling fine. Even though we are driving like this, we don't even have security on that road. Now like this, we are talking now like this in Bamenda. The road have been blocked for 1 month now. They say we should not circulate.
If the passengers cry about the price of transportation, drivers are worried about the fuel prices.
I'm just pleading for the government to see about us, even for the petrol system, because we are suffering. We are suffering about a lot. We are suffering a lot. Please, that the government should see about us, the driver, the transportation. All of us have children that are going to school, have responsibility. We cannot even meet up. We cannot even meet up with the society. So we are just pleading for the government to see about us, please.
The passengers are now begging on the government to come in to subsidize the fuel prices. If the government can find a way out to review this situation, it will be good for us. I know they have the means and they can do something to reduce the stress on us. You will notice that places are empty because many aren't traveling. Not only Douala Bamenda that witnessed new transportation prices. Leaving Boya or Limbe to Bamenda now costs 7,000 francs CFA.
And now we talk something else. Traders in Cameroon are taking advantage of the devaluation of naira as the French CFA takes the upper hand, and they are making more profit at the moment. Babile Jonathan visited some markets in Douala and compiled this report.
Value of the naira currency has continued declining against the dollar this year. Experts attribute naira fell as low as 1,851 per dollar at the parallel market and 1,571.3 for a dollar on the official market. The devaluation of naira to factors such as heavy reliance on oil and inconsistencies between fiscal and monetary policies contributing to its free fall, thus straining the country's economy. This has had rather a positive impact on the franc CFA and business between Cameroon and Nigeria.
Due to devaluation in Nigeria, their currency is really losing value. So due to that, for us the Cameroonians, I think we are gaining more in the business market now, because since their currency is falling, we tend to buy more from them. We change our money here. Maybe we take you take like 1 million here in Cameroon. You change it, it will give you like 2 million naira.
The naira devaluation have caused two things in our business today: the loss and the gain. But the gain, for now, many can see it that way. But I am foreseeing the future, because everything can stop even at this seconds we are talking about. So to me, I'm looking at the future. So the goods we are buying now is just a risk to buy and sell. You will make a bit of profit because the exchange now is 2,000. But in the future, it can fall back to 900 as before. And all the goods you have bought now, you will pay the price for this.
Business persons are thus advised to take advantage of the naira devaluation with caution to avoid incurring a huge loss in income when the current trend takes a U-turn.
And now to one of our major lead stories. Cameroon has been suspended from the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI. Last February 29th, EITI officially suspended Cameroon, citing the country's relatively low overall EITI implementation score, which is 53%. And Fomi Armstrong-Sanda in this report detailedly explains to us reasons for this recent suspension.
The Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, the EITI, board's decision is based on the EITI Article of Association 2019-2021, Article 12.1. According to the action of Thursday, 29 February 2024, Cameroon has achieved a fairly low score in implementing the 2019 EITI standard, 53 points. The overall scores reflect an average of the three component scores on stakeholders' engagement, transparency, outcome, as well as impact. In accordance with Article 5 of Section 4 of the 2019 EITI standards, Cameroon is suspended for having achieved partly met in requirement 1.3 related to civil society engagement to freedom of expression and association, despite making significant strides in the areas such as transparency in extractive contracts and identify actual beneficiaries, improving the availability of data on payments declared by extractive sector companies, including the National Oil Company, and on revenue received by the relevant government entities. The EITI's International Secretariat demanded better involvement of the civil society in the process in Cameroon. The institution's analysis indicates that the suspension serves as a message not only to Cameroonian authorities but also to a Cameroonian civil society that needs to intensify its efforts. Cameroon's next validation by the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative is scheduled for April 2027, by which the country must have addressed corrective measures for about 20 requirements. The suspension is about the second in less than 3 years. All stakeholders involved in the process must also have a clear understanding of the 2023 standards, which imposes stricter demands on issues such as actual ownership and energy transition topics.
Fomi Armstrong-Sanda reporting there. A civil society organization known as Detenons has called on the attention of the government on some irregularities in the electoral system that could perturb the country's social peace before and after the presidential elections next year. The promoter, Philippe Nanga, says the organization has sent out a petition which they intend presenting to the government on the impending doom if elections are organized with the present dispensations. Annabila tells us more.
As Cameroonians and various political parties prepare for the 2025 elections, the electoral process is still a preoccupation to many interested in the socio-political situation of the country.
On ne peut pas aller à une compétition à laquelle les compétiteurs ne sont pas d'accord sur les règles du jeu. C'est déjà une ouverture au conflit.
The NGO Detenons sends out a petition for the adjustment of the electoral code. Philippe Nanga decries the several irregularities in electoral laws and the process as a whole.
Quand on regarde notre encadrement juridique lié, n'est-ce pas, à l'autorité électorale qui est l'ECAM, on constate qu'il n'a ni la compétence nécessaire, ni l'autorité nécessaire.
One of the most important is what he termed the incompetence of Elections Cameroon ELECAM to take the electoral process to its end. Besides, the one-round electoral system in Cameroon, according to Monaleni, doesn't give any legitimacy to the elected. About just 3 million voters cannot be considered in a country of a population of over 25 million.
On ne doit pas aller aux prochaines élections sans réformer le système électoral si nous voulons préserver la paix sociale dans notre pays.
Monaleni and its collaborators say only with a correct and proper electoral code can the political future of Cameroon be assured.
Depuis 2018, nous sommes sortis de là avec un conflit qui n'est pas encore vidé jusqu'à l'heure où je vous parle, parce qu'il y a encore des prisonniers politiques liés, n'est-ce pas, à l'élection de 2018.
We think that a reform can avoid such a waste of resources that are needed to develop social amenities, to create social amenities like school, hospital.
The civil society organization calls on the government to correct all the lapses before the next electoral season so as to avoid all the political upheavals and socio-political crises which happened before, during and after the 2018 presidential election in Cameroon.
In other news, the first ordinary session of the 2024 legislative year opens today at the National Assembly. It was chaired by the eldest member of Parliament, Honorable Nguamfege Laurentine. She began her first paragraph of the opening speech by condemning the recent explosion that occurred in Kambe in the Dungamantum division of the Northwest region. Anna Bila comes back to the opening ceremony in this report.
The opening plenary sitting of the National Assembly was chaired by the eldest member of Parliament, Honorable Nguamfege Laurentine Epus Mbedi. During the speech at the opening ceremony, she began with the explosion in Kambe on February 11. In her words, the so-called separatist, bloodthirsty terrorists couldn't think of any better thing than disrupting the peace and quietness by shooting at young people parading on the 11th of February in Kambe. One person died and several others are still in the hospital. But according to her, it's not the death toll that is important, but the hideous act committed. Honorable Laurentine Fergie, on behalf of the parliamentarians, say no once again, enough is enough. And in the name of all mothers, she condemned and denounced what happened in Kambe.
I'd like to say, in any circumstance, shooting children is inhuman, unacceptable, and absolutely criminal.
The speaker at the opening ceremony, on behalf of the MPs, extended condolences to the parents of cherished Lemnui who lost her life. She also called the attention of the MPs to absenteeism at the hemicycle, with parliamentarians who, according to her, have had mediocre performances in the last 48 months spent at the National Assembly. Not without mentioning the sufferings of people with respect to bad roads and, above all, catastrophic energy supply in Cameroon lately. The teachers' cry or plight, which are still to be heard, though they have been shouting at the top of their voices, was also part of the opening speech at the lower house of Parliament. Deliberations at the National Assembly continue on March 6. Highlight will be the election of a new bureau. Expectations are high that a new team can be brought in with a new progressive spirit to the National Assembly.
And now in health, medical legal practitioners are calling on the government of Cameroon to include the study of forensic science in the academic syllabus. This stems from the fact that a good number of Cameroonians are ignorant of the discipline, which plays a vital role in the society, like identifying victims of catastrophe and conflicts, amongst other things. In line with this, top forensic psychologists from across the world are meeting right here in the city of Douala. Asia Lucilengu compiled this for us.
Cameroon remains one of the African countries still battling with insufficient expertise in legal medicine. Forensic pathologists find it difficult in carrying out their duties effectively. These, they say, stems from several factors.
There is no doctor who will work well without knowing that he doesn't only have rights, but he has limits in his practice. That's where medical ethics comes in, and we are actually advocating that the various stakeholders, including the Ministry of Public Health, to create avenue for legal medicine to be present on a daily basis in hospitals.
Forensic science involves the application of medical knowledge to a criminal investigation, particularly in establishing time and cause of death. But in Cameroon, many people are yet to understand the importance of forensic medicine.
Cameroonians do not really actually know that forensic medicine plays a vital role on their daily living. Yeah, so you will realize that they are not even aware that they can solicit the medical legal services in terms of difficulties.
Medical legal practitioners identify victims of landslide like the Mobile Guinness and Bankolo, the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions, amongst others.
Medical legal practitioners were solicited, and their role was mainly identifying the victims. And when we talk of identifying the victim, it is not only the dead, because legal medicine is not medicine for the dead, it's also for the living.
To address these challenges, top medical legal experts from across the world are meeting in Douala with the objective to bring to the limelight the importance of the discipline, which is legal medicine.
Away from health, human rights defenders complain that there is no law in Cameroon that adequately defends the rights of women. This is because several women are still being discriminated upon. To promote the rights of women in Cameroon, a network of human rights defenders in Central Africa are meeting in Douala to discuss on the protection of women as a means of social cohesion and peace in Cameroon. Details with Mala Glory.
According to Amnesty International, many women and girls across the globe still face discrimination because of their sex and gender. This is the case in Cameroon, where despite the different international, regional conventions and treaties in the protection and promotion of women's rights, women still live in total insecurity.
There is no law in Cameroon that defends defenders of human rights, not to talk about the women. So there is a problem there. So it is a means of creating an awareness.
The fight is for women to know the rights that protect them, and especially laws that defend human rights, and these can only be possible with the help of the government.
And we are calling for the state to come up with laws that protect these individuals whom the society seems to be on their necks every day. But it should not be that they should take the law upon them, or maybe choose to become arrogant and ingrate in a society.
Above all, women need to know their value and their position in the society.
And secondly, women need to be educated to know the difference between being a woman and also being a defender of human rights. When you are a woman and you don't know who you are, you don't know your value, you don't know the place you occupy in the community, you would think maybe they are giving you power to become a fighter.
It is in this context that the Network for Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa rallied in Douala this Tuesday under the theme "The Protection of Women, Human Rights Defenders as Means of Social Cohesion and for Peace in Cameroon." This to equip women with skills of production and the consolidation of peace in Cameroon.
And out of Cameroon, we begin in Chad, where 6 days after the death of opponent Yaya Dillo, Prime Minister Sucé Masra, in an interview on RFI, promised that there will be an international type of investigation. And elsewhere, the United States earlier on Monday imposed sanctions on Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, the First Lady Auxilia Mnangagwa, the Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, and 8 other senior officials. They are accused of protecting gold and diamonds in illicit markets and taking bribes in exchange for services, among other offenses. We have details in this report done by Cedric Chakutio.
In Chad, in an interview with an international media earlier on March 4th, the Chadian Prime Minister Sucé Masra promised that an international type investigation will be carried out by his government to determine responsibilities in the death of the main opponent to the junta killed in an army assault against his party. The Socialist Party Without Borders, PSF, accused the army of having executed their president Yaya Dilo Jeru. Again, the rest of the opposition invoked an assassination to prevent him from running for presidential elections in 2 months. Human Rights Watch, on their part, called for an independent investigation with foreign assistance into the murder of the rival and cousin of the transitional president, General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno. The government is committed to carry out an international-style investigation which will identify responsibilities at all levels. Elsewhere, the United States imposed sanctions on Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, the First Lady Auxilia Mnangagwa, the Vice President Constantino Chingwa, and 8 other senior officials. The United States Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control accuses the 11 individuals and 3 entities of being involved in corruption or serious human rights abuse. Mnangagwa is accused of protecting gold and diamond smugglers who operate in Zimbabwe, directing government officials to facilitate the sale of gold and diamonds in illicit markets and taking bribes in exchange of his services. President Joe Biden also signed an executive order that terminates Zimbabwe's national emergency and evokes Zimbabwe-specific sanctions. Now, the administration is using a Trump-era executive order that implements the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act as its authority to issue the sanctions. The White House said in a statement that sanctions on these individuals and entities do not represent sanctions on Zimbabwe or its public.
And now we take this advertorial. After their success in forex trading in other African countries, Equinoxe, a multi-asset broker which recently arrived in Cameroon, is determined to drill more traders on how the forex market works. For this, a conference was organized by the top management with experts in forex trading being taught basic skills. Details in this report.
Their success in forex trading in 2020 and 2022 in some African countries, Equinoxe, a multi-asset broker, arrived in Cameroon so as to inform traders about the market and how they can easily trade.
Equinoxe is a multi-asset broker known worldwide for their services. Online, you can trade the forex market on our platform, and you can easily access it in Cameroon.
Equinoxe, created since 2008, did not have enough traders on the African continent and thought it wise to change things.
There wasn't enough traders trading on the markets. That number is changing, and also the quality of the traders is changing due to the fact that there is serious awareness.
To better understand how the forex market works, the top management organized a free session where traders could meet, share and cultivate more knowledge on trading.
One of the things that we want to do is also reach out to as many people as possible, and we are showing alternative forms of investments, forms of trading, something that you can do. It doesn't matter what's going on around your economy, what the situation is saying, or you're looking for help. Help can be found from here. You can actually develop your skills. You can actually learn this and actually benefit from this.
This discussion was done in the presence of some experts in the trading domain who did not hide their experiences as traders.
I've been trading with Equinoxe for the past 2 years. Before that, I've used a couple of other brokers that never provided the services that we really needed. And today, for the past 2 years, I can really say Equinoxe is the best brokerage in terms of speed, in terms of executions, in terms of slippage, in terms of also leverage, and also the speed of deposit and withdrawal.
To the participants, this was an occasion to have more information on trade contract for differences and learn more on trading.
I'm very much satisfied and I'm contented with everything I've learned today. I came here today first to learn from expert traders, to learn from fellow mentors in the industry, and I think that the event has been an opportunity to learn, to exchange, to network.
I'm so amazed seeing other traders, seeing other people doing the same business which I do, and it actually makes me happy. I'm a pastor by profession, so me being a pastor and seeing other people trade, seeing other pastors trade, seeing other Christians trade, it gives me so much joy.
Equinoxe gives access to CFDs on forex, stocks, crypto, indices, energies, and metals.
At Equinoxe, we not just being a multi-asset broker, we are highly regulated. We believe in regulation and transparency. We want to make sure that clients are safe, especially Cameroonians. I know that Cameroonians like to hold their monies, and that's why we have provided this Momo, so that way people can actually withdraw from their accounts 24/7. At any point in time, you can have access to your account, where you can also feel safe knowing that trading with us us, you can go to bed and wake up and not feel any discomfort.
To have access to Equinoxe, the procedure is very simple.
As long as you're 18 and above, you can trade with us. Just simply need to also make sure that you verify your account with us. You have what you call KYC, know your customer, simply by providing your proof of identity and a proof of residence, and then obviously you can start trading with us. So you can actually go on your Google Play Store. You can also go on our website equinoxe.com and you can also download the
Known as number one on the globe, Equinoxe brings you trade without trade-offs. Remember, there are only two brokerages in the world, that is Equinoxe and others.
That's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Tonight on Talking Point, I'll be receiving Barrister Keret Tambeng Muna. He is a lawyer. I'll be discussing about the recent suspension of Cameroon by ET. Good evening, Barrister. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. Cameroon has been suspended from the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, ET. What meaning can we draw from the suspension of Cameroon?
Thank you very much for this question concerning the suspension of Cameroon from the EITI process. In 2013, Cameroon was declared compliant, and unfortunately, afterwards, 3 years afterwards, or 6 years, I can't remember quite. Maybe Cameroon was now suspended, and then after it, because the review is every 3 years. Now 3 years, we had the third year, we're having another review, and now we have been declared, we have been suspended. Cameroon has been suspended, meaning that we'll have to wait to 2027. Now, so what does it mean? It means that Cameroon is viewed as a country where the management of its extractive industry resources is not clear. That means oil, gold, and other minerals. And it also means that we have a problem telling the citizens how much we earn from oil. As you know very well, the EITI says in the very beginning that the resources of a country belong to its people. So we should know. I mean, you can remember very many years back when there was, I think it was Mr. Asumu was general manager of SNH. They're asking about the oil revenue. He says, only 3 people know, myself, the president, and God. So these people don't understand that citizens have a right to know. And transparency is the biggest and most important tool in fighting against corruption. And when we fail that test, as we're seeing in the Glenco case, the Glenco case is mentioned in the report of the board of directors of EITI, a case where courts have declared that SNH and Sonora have taken bribe, that high-ranking officials they have taken bribe. But in Cameroon, we can't even ask them. We can't even ask Glenco, who did you pay? To this day, Glenco is still trading in Cameroonian oil. He's still a trader. It's beyond anybody to understand how we can be so compromised to the point that we can't even catch thieves.
Barrister, on your tweet, you made mention of the Glenco Affair, and right now that's what you just talked about as one of the major reasons for the suspension. Could you please better enlighten us on this Glenco issue?
I didn't say Glenco was a principal cause. I said it was one of the reasons, which when they were talking about the fact that the civil society should be engaged and that the civil society space is shrinking and the participation of the civil society is causing a problem to the government. As a matter of fact, it is sad because it is even a violation of our own law. The law of the Code on Transparency and Good Governance of 2018, I think it's Article 47, July 2018, says clearly that civil society, journalists, and all of us should have access to information concerning our finances. And we don't. And we just don't have that access. So, in the process of writing this report, EITI, the board regretted the fact that the civil society doesn't have access, and the little room it has is shrinking. So that's what I meant as part of the decision. The main fact is it's a whole global thing. I cannot say that it's only because of Glenco. No, no, no.
We'd like to know, how can this decision possibly affect the mining sector, which is very strategic as far as state revenue is concerned?
That is true. It's a very important question. Firstly, the fact that a country has been suspended means that we have a problem with the management of our revenue. It means also that a relationship with international banks, multilateral and bilateral financial arrangements are going to be more difficult. And it's going to also make it difficult for countries coming from countries where there are strict rules of engagement for their own companies. For example, just like Glenco was fined in America under the LCPA, and also Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and also in England under the by the Serious Fraud Office. These are regulations of those countries placed on their companies. So if their companies are coming to a country which is known for being opaque in the management, it means that those countries will be very worried to come to our country. And if they're worried to come to our country, therefore employment is affected. Therefore, we will become less attractive for doing business. It is correct that this kind of branding of a Cameroon to be a country where there's non-disclosure of revenue is not good for us. It's sad. It's not good.
According to your tweet, you and the former Minister of Economy and Finance, Polycarp Abba, worked so hard to ensure that Cameroon is part of EITI. How do you feel now after getting the news of the suspension?
Historically speaking, you know, it's something that affects me because in 2007, I was one of those who worked hard to make sure Cameroon was admitted into the process. This was in London in 2007 with Minister Abba, and then I think it was Minister Boateng for the British side. Anyway, so we were admitted. I managed to get a slot for the minister to speak to a very important audience. As I remember the Vice President of DRC, Bemba, also making a speech. So anyway, we admitted into the process, and you can say what you want about Minister Abba, but I worked with him, and he worked very hard and tirelessly for EITI to start in Cameroon. So I'm sure where he is now, when he hears this news, he will not be. He will regret it, because he understood that by getting into that process, we will force our country to start regulating the use and receipt of revenue from the extractive industry.
Now, what can possibly explain the prevailing situation of corruption? Is it intentional, or is it a matter of incompetence or lack of political will in Cameroon?
That's a very interesting question. At this point, I will not talk about political will, because it's an engagement by the country to comply. Secondly, we have laws that should force us to comply. So I put it down to the fact that corruption is now systemic and endemic, and secondly, to a kakistocracy we have, incompetence. We have a serious problem of casting in our country. Do we have the right people in the right places? And that's one of the things we should think about.
Now that we are currently in troubled waters, we would like to know what should be the response of Cameroon and how can it be corrected, given that this is the second time Cameroon has been suspended.
Well, the next review is in 2027, in 3 years' time. So what should Cameroon do? What should Cameroon do is, the EIT has put a whole list of recommendations. If we follow that list, then we'll be compliant. But the thing is that those who don't comply, they do so for a reason. Because they are certainly covering up the tracks of all the embezzlements. So the question is, can we expect the same people to solve the problem? Or, as I say very often, can the fish fry themselves?
Akere Tambeng Muna speaking there, and that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you so much, dear viewers, for your keen attention. Stay with us for more interesting programs coming up next.